It's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of homeowners who will get no help from it. On the other hand, we got something from the banks. Let me bring in a reporter who's been covering this, Janell Ross, for the Huffington Post. She's their business reporter. To get a little bit more detail here. Janell, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. So, you wrote about a family that experienced this foreclosure and how the banks strung them along. And I thought it was a really interesting case because so often in the media you hear people saying, and the anchors saying, oh, these people were irresponsible and they had it coming. But that isn't always the case, is it?
That's true, definitely. Not the family that I wrote about today, the Zapatas, who lived near West Palm Beach, Florida, certainly had enough income to afford the house that they purchased. They were a family with savings before this crisis began. So I don't think that they would meet many of the typical criteria for a quote-unquote irresponsible buyer.
So what did the bank that held their mortgage, what did they do to them that was so egregious that it leads you to believe, hey, that maybe the bank did not have good intentions?
I'll use, I guess, the words of Monica Zapata. What she told me about her experience is that the bank that was managing, or as they say in the business, servicing her loan, meaning that they were taking in her payments and also were in a position to approve a mortgage modification when the family ran into unforeseeable financial troubles. The economy declined. Mr. Zapata's business began to fall apart. As you can imagine, their income changed. She immediately contacted her bank and asked for a change in terms. She filled out a 40-page application. That application sat with GMAC in this case, which later became Ally Financial, for about 9 months, and then she received notice that they were going to foreclose. All the while, she was checking in with the bank every few weeks, and she was being told that they were carefully considering her application. There were no hints at all, as she told me, that it was unlikely that this was going to be approved. She gets notice of foreclosure and also goes to seek help from a nonprofit organization that's worked with a lot of homeowners facing the similar situation around the country. They are encouraged to submit a second request for a mortgage modification, this time about 50 pages worth of documents, which they did 2 weeks before a deadline that was set by the bank. They submitted the application, received confirmation that the application had been received, according to Mrs. Zapata, and a few weeks later were informed by GMAC that the mortgage modification application was not received on time, so the case had been closed and there would be no modification made. And the GMAC moved to foreclose on this family. They also, I think perhaps most remarkably, it seems there was some effort or perhaps some reason that one part of the foreclosure process in Florida requires lenders or servicers to sit down at a mediation session, a formal discussion with the borrower to try to work out a last attempt at a deal to try to keep the family in their home or at least avoid a foreclosure where they have to get out quickly. And that date kept being pushed back for this family to the point where when they got to their final date, August 3rd, they were told, you will have to pay for the mediation session, which is not true. Under Florida law, the bank was supposed to pay for this session. And as you can imagine, this family facing a serious financial crisis couldn't afford to pay $400 an hour to sit down and talk with their servicer. And the servicer sold their house on the very day of the scheduled mediation.
Right. Janell, I'll put it easier. They got hosed. They got screwed. They got hoodwinked, okay? They did everything right. They submitted all the applications. They went to mediation, and the bank said, oh, yeah, we're going to take care of it. And then the minute they could, they foreclosed on their house without asking them and going through the proper channels. And now what do they get? They get a check for maybe $1,800 to $2,000 after they've lost their $500,000 house. It drives me crazy. It was a great story. Janell Ross from Huffington Post, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Now, listen.